This launch was brought to you by jobsandcareersjamaica.com.
So we have Trisha M. Duval joining us from Jamaica National. And I'm just going to wait a few minutes. I'm very delighted that everybody is coming on board, and I know it's a busy time. So, okay, where one or two are gathered, I think that we can do the honors and start. I always feel that the early birds should be rewarded, and so I want to welcome all of you. We have participants as far afield as Kenya. We have Francine Staple there, and we welcome you and your colleagues, Francine. And we have Nera Home, Dr. Jean Small, we have Sandy McIntosh, and certainly as we go along, others will be joining us. I see a few people waiting to be admitted, and I'm looking to see when they will actually press that admit button. So welcome everyone. I really am so delighted that we have this occasion, and I just wish that we were face to face. I wish we were all in the same room. I must tell you that I miss the face-to-face interaction that I had pre-COVID, because there's a certain energy and synergy that comes from that. But of course, we all have to be adaptable. We have to learn to work with what we have, and the world is going more and more online. In fact, my millennials have been telling me that I better get used to being in the metaverse. And when I first heard this term, I said, the metaverse, what is that? And of course, it's a part of the virtual reality. I was talking with Dean before you all came on about this fascination with virtual reality and the metaverse. And he tells me that there's a bit of dopamine in it, that young people sort of light up in their brains when they have this sort of interaction, and there's a feel good, and there is an instant response and feedback. But all that being said, I still miss the bricks and mortar world, and I think that we are now coming out of our silos because COVID seems to be subsiding, and more people are coming out and wanting some physical interaction. And so in my own work, I'm looking at a blended approach. I'm looking at doing some more face-to-face along with the online. We are in this brave new world, which was described as such by Aldous Huxley, the British philosopher and futurist, who looked into what our world might become through technology. And he had a rather dismal view of where technology would take us. In fact, he said that he thought it would make us stop thinking, that we would just begin to be fed through media, that we just want to be entertained. And one of the things I remembered him saying, which alarmed me because it was so near to things that are happening now, was that we could even elect people who are incompetent to lead us because we would be so caught up with personality and charisma rather than substance. And much of what Huxley said is actually happening. And so I'm on guard about this brave new world. I think it offers very exciting prospects. There are people like Dean Mundy at Ideas Evolution that's doing wonderful things with technology, with creativity. And there are lots of good things, but there's the other side, which is how are we going to balance our humanity with all of this? And I feel very strongly that the more powerful our technology becomes, the more important it's going to be to understand what it means to be human and to respect, nurture, and protect our humanity. We, after all, are the innovators. We are the ones that are creating this brave new world. But yet we seem more fascinated by machines and robots and bots and all the other things. And I want to bring us back to this tremendous human power that we possess, the power that has led to our innovativeness, the power that has taken us through the dark ages into enlightenment, taken us through unpredictable times, carried us through deserts when we were wandering around as tribes, and brought us into communities and cities. It is the human mind, this powerful organ that we are bestowed with. And so I don't want us to lose touch of that. we human beings are, of course, far more vulnerable than the machines we're inventing. They probably are built to last all sorts of things. And we touch our vulnerability almost every day. But I think this pandemic that we have, I would like to say we have come through, but we're still going through. It has really made us understand our human frailty. You know, we and tremendous vulnerability. We lost so many loved ones. We started seeing it from afar in cities like New York and in Italy and in Spain and places like that. And then it came right to us as well. And we saw so many people die. It brought our businesses to a halt. It affected our jobs, our lives, our children, our elders, our communities, and our families. And indeed, it is still affecting us because even though it is subsiding, there is an aftermath, and there are other things that are on the heels of what we have already experienced that's so traumatic. You know, the very confinement that we went through. I mean, we've always said theoretically and perhaps practically that we are social beings. And yet for many months, people were locked away. And I know that there were many elderly people who didn't even see their children or grandchildren, and children were taken out of school. They too felt that sense of confinement and loss of their community. And we had a sense of fear and unpredictability about the future. And also that our world was in chaos. In fact, some people saw it as a sort of Armageddon. Some people saw it as a grand conspiracy for the new world order to take over our lives. Whatever it was that we were experiencing, we understood that we were losing something. And we were losing our livelihood as well. And we were threatened with losing our very lives. So this has had a very traumatic impact on us, which we cannot ignore. We look at what happened with the division between work and home, and those lines were blurred. And both men and women had challenges in taking care of children who were home. They had to be working from home and trying to balance home and work, the frustrations of their children, their own frustrations. Some people told me, because I'm in the business of counseling and coaching and listening to people, and they told me that they were being terribly micromanaged because there were managers and bosses who just didn't understand how you manage people remotely. So they wanted to know everything that they were doing instead of really concentrating on the results that they were producing. And so there was that feeling of micromanagement, confinement, and also that they were dispensable, because as companies started to go into bricks and mortar, move away rather from the bricks and mortar and go more online, they thought, well, you know, we can save a lot of money. And so downsizing started taking place. Redundancies started to become more frequent, and people got very disillusioned. In fact, I was recently in the United States, and I saw where many organizations are begging people to come back to work. The airline industry is suffering, the service industry, they're everywhere you went, you would see signs, we are hiring, and people are saying, no, thank you. We've gotten used to being at home. You sent us home, and in some instances, you made us redundant. We don't want to come back. And there is a phenomenon now called quiet quitting. Somebody said it's not really such a phenomenon. It really is a new term for job dissatisfaction, and for workers who feel disengaged and who don't feel particularly loyal or cared for. And so that is impacting productivity. And all of these things are happening that we need to pay attention to. And if that wasn't enough, we also have the war in the Ukraine, where we are seeing, you know, real human disaster that's impacting not only the Ukraine, but people all over the world in terms of supply chains, food shortages, rising prices. And really and truly, people are feeling exhausted, they're feeling depressed. And even those of us who feel optimistic and motivated and ready to bounce back, we have to be mindful of the people that we have to carry with us. So in having this this launch and in broaching this theme of powering up and getting in gear for a new year, I am really inviting us to look at the reality of what surrounds us and how we are going to lift ourselves and others out of this sense of despair that some people are feeling, depression, perhaps resignation, low productivity, lack of drive. It's not with everybody, but there are a lot of people. And there are people also who are masking it, you see, because when you are the cheerleader, we have people in human resources who are undergoing tremendous stress, but they're the cheerleaders. They're the ones that are supposed to be saying to their team, come on, we can do this and do that. They themselves are experiencing this. And even persons in areas like psychology and psychiatry, they're also under strain because, of course, their services are in demand, but they themselves are experiencing the aftermath of much of this. I just wanted to refer to a Gallup poll, which was done in the United States, and we often take a page from them. And it said that a survey of workers 18 years and older, which was taken in June 2022, said that quiet quitters made up 50% of the US workforce. So that 50% of the US workforce feel disillusioned, doesn't feel like really putting out their all. And they say that that percentage is highest among people in the 35-year-old age group. And those are supposed to be our young, energized go-getters. Much of this was based on questions about enthusiasm, worker enthusiasm, and how engaged people felt with their work, and how they felt about the future. So basically it worked out, if you do the math, that 68% of American job holders are unhappy. I wonder what our statistics would say. I don't know if anybody has done a poll here, but I think that there is a lot of unhappiness, there's a lot of demotivation in the workplace, and perhaps we're also busy trying to get the job done, trying to build our businesses, that we are failing to recognize that our workforce may be becoming less and less productive, and that it's not just going to be good enough to show up for work, that we are going to have to pay attention to those around us. We are going to have to find ways to engage, to listen, to motivate, and to help people. And so I want to go to my theme, which is power up and getting gear for a successful new year. I felt that we have to somehow take ourselves out of this inertia, and we have to pull on our inner resources, our inner powers, and get things going. Now, I want to say I bring no quick fix solutions. I'm not going to give you some recipes and say this will do the trick and we'll all be powered up when we leave here. But I want to offer some paths. Are you hearing, Jean?
No, it should be going on now.
Yes. Is everyone hearing? Can you send that through to me if you are not, or you can put up your hand if you're not hearing. You can use a little lip. Okay, fine. So as I said, I'm not offering any quick fix solutions, but I want us to look into how we can deploy our human powers and capacity for change and renewal, creativity and innovation. And I'm just going to pause a minute because I want to ensure that everybody will be hearing this presentation. So can you signal to me either in the chat or by putting up a hand that you are hearing me? Now, I hope that that person's saw our new Zoom link because, okay, very good. Okay, so I'm hoping others will join us and we'll be looking out for them. But there were 2 links sent out, as you may have seen. One was sent with Eastern time and the other with Pacific. And we corrected it and made sure the Eastern time was sent out. So for those persons who may be searching around as to what link to be on, if you're in touch with any of them, please let them know because the link was sent. Okay. I would like to engage you by asking a few questions. I think before we can power up and before we can turn on these powers, we need to engage each other and we need to think about some questions we have to ask ourselves. And these questions are not just for employers or young people. They are for all of us. They are for the business owners, the HR practitioners, the entrepreneurs, the executives, the professionals, the interns, students, millennials, Generation Z, and baby boomers. I'm going to ask the question, and I want you to consider them and to answer them internally, to be a bit introspective. Later on, we can have some discussion, but I'm going to go through the presentation. I'm going to point to a few things, and then I am going to have some discussion with you and also showcase some products and podcasts and different things that we're doing. First of all, let me say that jobsandcareersjamaica.com, one of Jamaica's premier websites, is bringing this presentation and this launch to you. And I hope you will all have a chance to visit, and I hope that we will be able to look at it a bit in this presentation, that you can see quite a bit of information on products, because one of the things we want to do is we want to share, we want to engage, we want to discuss. We don't want to be in silos. So anyway, to my questions, I want you to think about how you are feeling. What is your energy level? What is your degree of optimism versus pessimism? Your level of motivation versus resignation, and your level of hopefulness versus despair. Your level of faith versus fear. And in this respect, I'm talking about faith in relation to a belief that there is something better, something higher, that we need not feel alone in our struggles and challenges, and that we can pull on the good in ourselves and the creativity in ourselves. So I want you to think about that. How are you really feeling? Because I think some of us are putting on a very good face. You know, we've been trained to do that, or our mothers especially told us, put your best face forward. But there are times when we have to confront our feelings and know that we are not as upbeat or not as optimistic as we'd like to be. So I'd like you to think about that silently. Now, the second question is, have you taken time to connect with your feelings, or do you just shut them down and repress them? Have you taken time to share with those close to you? You know, we're so busy and we tell ourselves, oh, we don't want to bother anybody, and they already have their own troubles and they're busy and they have enough on them. And then we don't even consider whether they may need to have some time to also express and talk about how they're feeling, about their fears, about their frustration, about possibly the uncertainties and fears of maybe losing their job or getting in financial straits or the business going south. We have to begin.
Thank you, Fertie.
Yeah, you can start. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know, I'm asking you to think about what's been happening with you. If you've taken time to confide in anybody.
It's a Jillian thing.
Yes.
And
Well,
listen
okay,
to Julian
I'm going
Dumont.
to ask you, Jean, to mute. If you could mute for me so that while I'm speaking, there is no other talk coming through. So, and we don't have any feedback. So I'm going to ask you to mute. Okay, good. So I'm asking you to, at this time, as we're looking at how we can help to lift each other, if you have been observing those around you at work and in your community and your circle of friends and how they are feeling and responding to challenges. You know, I find that people will come to me for a counseling session and tell me how they really feel, but they may not have spoken with their significant other, their children, even their close friends, because they almost feel guilty or they feel inadequate because they're not feeling very optimistic, and they're even feeling depressed. Some people are very depressed. So then we get to the question, how often do you ask the question, how are you? And take the time to listen and really listen. You know, how are you? Fine, thank you. Okay. But how are you? You know, I think we're at a point where we don't have to just give the standard answer. When I lived out in Nigeria, there was a wonderful ritual that people went through. It was such a level of courtesy that they had different greetings for different times of the day. And they would ask you in the morning, Ina Aiki, which meant, how is your work? And then they would ask you, Ina Gajia, how is your tiredness? And you gave a ritual answer. My work is wonderful. Oh, I'm fine. But really it was a ritual, and you were not expected to say, well, my work is terrible. And really, I'm feeling totally exhausted. I'm fed up. And we ourselves have those rituals where we ask people, how are you? And we expect them just to say fine, and we ourselves do it. But is there room for us to say, well, of late, I felt really low energy, and I felt the need to perhaps engage with people, maybe now get out of my silo and meet, and maybe go out for lunch or have a talk with my human resource manager or my colleagues. I feel that need to express how I'm feeling. So I asked that question, and it's a significant question. There are 3 people entering the waiting room. I'm going to just admit them. Admit. Okay, there are more people joining us. Okay. Fine, I've just paused. Okay. So I will keep looking out for other people joining us. I welcome you all. Welcome everyone that's coming on board. We were discussing, for those who are just joining us, the questions that we need to ask ourselves before we can really power up. They're questions about our feelings, about how we are feeling at this time. There are questions about, are we connecting with our feelings? Are we connecting with other people's feelings? And are we observing and noting those around us? And are we going through that ritual response to the question, how are you, where we just ask it and we move on, we don't stop to listen, and we don't give perhaps a genuine answer, which sometimes would be like, I'm feeling a little low. I could do with a little talk, or I would like to get out and have a little face-to-face mingle with people now. And the genuine thing, we have to just stop depending on the ritual and really begin to listen and begin to question and answer ourselves genuinely. I also wanted to ask about, with all the WhatsApp, social media, online, Twitter, Instagram, what are we really talking about and sharing? Are we taking time to study the changes and trends that are impacting the way we live and work? Or are we just exchanging impressions? Dean shared this with me because I'm learning a lot about the millennials, because I'm asking them questions. I'm asking them why they're so excited about the metaverse and virtual reality and all of these things and social media. And Dean gave me an explanation. That is Dean Mundi, whose studio I am broadcasting from, Dean Mundi of Ideas and Ideas Innovation. And he's telling me that there is a dopamine effect to all of this. You know, you get on social media and you put out a remark and somebody pings you and tells you they like it, or they like what you're wearing, and it's an exchange with people that you don't really know, but it makes you feel good. It's an instant feel good. And so there's a lot of that going on. But the substance, the depth, the exploring our real feelings, our confronting what is taking place, you know, the advent of, or I would say the growth and the exponential rate at which artificial intelligence is being inserted into our lives. How do we feel about that? I must tell you, I was very alarmed to find out that there is something called a bot farm. The BBC had a program, and it explained that people who set up perhaps podcasts or online programs, we often see their numbers, and you might see that 3,000 people responded within seconds to something that they said. And what this program revealed was that not all of this is genuine human response. You can go to something called a bot farm, and these robots respond like human beings and say they like it or whatever. And so they become influencers, because once you get a certain amount of hits, then you are now marketable and you can actually make money. And someone will say, okay, you know, X person has 3,000 hits, but not all of this is human interaction. And I think it was what the person who is now in the spotlight, Elon Musk, spoke about when he was buying Twitter, that he thought he was buying a platform with a lot of human engagement, and a lot of it is robotic. That's what he has alleged. And the BBC showed that how this works. So you know, we are influenced by that. If we think that a particular fashion or point of view or politics or idea is the way to be because so many people are supporting it, we might get on the bandwagon, which goes back to Huxley's warning that we would cease to think for ourselves and we would be, you know, really just influenced by media and by entertainment. So that's a little bit, you know, deep for now, and I won't go fully into that. But we need to ask ourselves questions that are real and genuine. How happy are we about our work? About managing our careers, our businesses, our performance? What do we really want out of work? The 35-year-olds in the United States are quitting. They're silent quitting. They're showing up. They're bringing their bodies to work and leaving their spirit and in some instances their brains behind. They're just going through the motions. And if you are quiet quitting, then you are resigning yourself to a limited level of personal growth. Because work is not just about what we do for an organization. It's an expression of ourselves, of our personality, of the talents, of our endowments. So if we withhold those and we shrink ourselves, we also are limiting our own growth. So these are questions. Are you quiet quitting? Are you cruising? How engaged are you, or how resigned? I'm asking too about how pessimistic or optimistic you are about the future. I'm hearing a lot of people speaking about Armageddon, about the end of the world, about the world order taking over, about a world in which human beings will have no value because the machines will be more efficient than us. And I'm really wondering, is that the world we want? Would we as human beings create a world in which we make ourselves obsolete? I'm happy to say that even though Elon Musk may be controversial at the moment over Twitter, that he has issued a warning about that and says that we do have the ability to control the machines that we make and how much we give them in terms of the ability to manipulate us. And so I'm happy about that. And I certainly hope that that we will not fall in love just with robotics and technology, that we will still be in love with the creative human spirit. So I want to ask you, what has been your self-talk lately? Because I am a neuro-linguistic therapist, and if you know what that means, we are taught that we use the mind, we used language and our self-talk and what we say to ourselves, and also what we say externally as a way of actually creating our future and our reality, what we feed our brains. If we get up every day and we're telling ourselves that the future really looks dismal, that we're all going to perish in the next pandemic, or that we will have no value in an artificial intelligence future, we are actually not only predicting, but we are creating that reality. And so what we feed ourselves in terms of thoughts are important. And I think that if we look at history in various pivotal phases of history, when we're at the brink of kind of making ourselves obsolete, we are pulled back and we have created new philosophies, new value to the human spirit, new avenues in the arts. And I believe artists like my friend Dr. Jean Small and Dean Mundy and others have an incredible role to play right now, because we need to remind ourselves of this creative ethos and what it does and how it helps to lift us. And through art, we can do so much, whether it is through our music, our theater, our songs, and words are powerful. I won't go into my thoughts on some of the music that we produce and what we say in them. But anyway, this is the brave new world that we're in, and we have to ask ourselves questions about it. How are we going to preserve ourselves in all of this? What is going to be a balance for our health, our happiness, and our family lives? On a personal level, I want to say that I discovered during COVID that I could be with myself and I could be with others. I'm an ambivert, so I can be with myself on a book, and I can go into my mind, and I can go into a world of concepts and creativity, not an escape from reality, but being able to sit and to think and so on. And I was very happy for this, because those initial days of COVID, when we were confined, some people were climbing the wall. They did not know how to be with themselves. Marriages were under strain. People who went to work every day and kissed their spouses goodbye and just saw them when they came home in the evening now had to live with them for longer periods and discovered that they didn't really know them. They'd never really had a conversation. People we worked with, we didn't really know everything about them. And so we have to now look at how we are going to go into ourselves and preserve our psychological balance, our physical balance, our spiritual balance. And I know that Jean and others know quite a bit about that side of things, but we have to work at it. And so I'm asking you these questions to let you think, perhaps to disturb you a little, to come out of any inertia that you're in, and to begin to even allow yourself to feel uncomfortable, so we can, go into our depths. The 10th question, and I'll end after 10 questions. What meaning are you seeking or achieving in your life and work? Do you know if you're even in the right job or business? Do you know, I had people who came to me for counseling after they were made redundant during this period of COVID. And they said they were mourning the jobs that they didn't really like in the first place. They had stuck with some jobs that they didn't like. And in a way, they were released. And part of my counseling really was to facilitate them in understanding that they had the opportunity now to do something. They had held on to this job as a safety blanket. It wasn't so safe after all. And even when they sometimes despised it and it made them feel very frustrated, they held on to it and told themselves that, well, it was security, and it was no security at all. And when the change came, they found they were liberated and they could move on, and they could actually get help to move on, which is what we did in our program, Facing the Challenge of Change. We have people in businesses that have long left them, that are holding on to these businesses, that are losing their money, that are sucking all of the spirit out of them, you know, because when you give birth to a business, it becomes your child. I know that for 33 years, I had a physical office. And when COVID came and our landlord sold the premises, I had to pack up this baby and put it in storage, a physical office, but I didn't put the concepts. And I had to quickly reorient myself and get online. I think I learned Zoom within a few hours, maybe half an hour. I had a Zoom list and learned how to go on Zoom. And so now, like a lot of people, I'm operating online, but I also want to do some face-to-face. But we have to ask ourselves about the businesses that we're in. Many entrepreneurs, you know, fail and start again. The failure is not final, you know. Failure really opens us up to looking at how we can reconfigure, how we might change the model that we have, or how we might do it differently. So for those people out there struggling with businesses and jobs and so on that are leaving them behind, do not feel despair. There is a lot of hope for you to take that collective experience and use it in a different way. Nothing is ever lost. One of the things I tell people when they come for counseling, having lost their jobs, is that the fact that your job has been made redundant doesn't mean that you're redundant, and that you can build on the foundation you've established. So having gone through all of that, I said I was going to, in this presentation, attempt to power you up and get you in gear for the new year. And I have already listed all the things that we have to look at as concerns, but I don't want us to dwell on the problems. Someone said we must give 20% of the time to the problem and 80% to the solution. So I'm looking at solutions, and I want to share with you something that I use in my work. There are 4 powers that I identified as I was helping people with their development, their sense of self-actualization, their ability to change. And it's the foundation of every training program that I do has this in it, because I believe people have to tap into this if they really want to achieve the results that they want in any sphere of endeavor, whether it's in personal development, it's in customer service, it's in building businesses, it's in building their organizations, it's in building their families. And these 4 powers I put down were vision, imagination, memory recall, and dreams. I want you to think about it, because it may seem very simple, you know, and many people say to me, what do you mean by vision, you know? Is that's something that artists or mad people or you know, highly religious people get? But I want you to consider this. All of us are endowed with that power, the power to create in our mind's eyes, visions and pictures. We had that power before we had the spoken or written word. I remember many years ago, a man asked Monty Perkins if people who are illiterate can think. And Monty said, don't be stupid. Many of them have a lot of, you know, common sense, sometimes more than the people who are so steeped in books. I don't want to hit the book people, and I have quite a few academics, very esteemed academics here this afternoon. But the power of vision that we're speaking about is not the power only to see with the physical eye, but with the mind's eye. And vision, the kind of vision we're talking about, gives us the power to go beyond the boundaries of what we know. That's why we need it. Because if we only go by what we know, we could not advance as people or as a civilization. And I always use the story of the children of Israel, whether you're biblical or not, that when they were in the desert and Moses was taking them across this endless sand, he had them envisioning this promised land of milk and honey, and it kept them going for 40 years. A little rebellion took place, but without that power of vision to see something beyond what was in their immediate sphere of vision, to only depend on what they knew, they could not make that trek. And so when we're making big changes, we have to have vision. When we're making small ones too, we should activate that power of vision to see with our mind's eye what is possible, what we can do beyond what we have been doing ordinarily and routinely. And so it allows us to transcend our fears, our limitations, our doubts, and to envision possibilities. That's what vision is about. The other power I want to quickly speak about is imagination. And so what is imagination about? Imagination is our power of creativity, to do what our grandmothers especially told us, to take hand and turn fashion, you know, and to be enterprising and resourceful in the face of adversity. And I want to say there's someone here with us this afternoon who I think is a powerhouse of creativity. Many of us here are creatives, but Dr. Jean Small, who is she is a writer, she is a poetess, she is a theater production person. She is also a motivational speaker, and she is involved in so many things. I don't know if many of you knew that when the Reggae Boys were on the world stage, that she went to France at the invitation of the French government and gave a one-woman play in French. And she has been given the Légion d'honneur, which is the highest honor you can get for culture in France. And she's here with us. I don't know if Dr. Small has been given the same here in Jamaica, but I know that the French hold her in great esteem. She's a global figure right here with us. And there are many others. Dean Mundy, you know, he hasn't put his face up on the Zoom, but he has been producing Jamaican artists all over the world, and he's traveled to Africa. He has been in America. He has produced some of the great artists. And he has returned right here to have his studio, Ideas Evolution, which I now have the privilege of being in. So there we are. So we turn on the power of vision, of imagination, and then the power of memory recall. Our power of memory recall is a wonderful storage. We're impressed about the computer, but we have this great storage within us that gives us the ability to pull on our experiences, to be able to learn from our mistakes, to learn from others, to celebrate and understand our failures, our successes, our triumphs, or everything. We have it all rolled in one, and we can pull on that experience to help us in going forward, to learn from it. And last but not least, we have our dreams. Freud called those the royal road to the unconscious. And our dreams are our aspirations, our desires, the things that are there inside of us that we want to express, and which we often manifest through very innovative work and all sorts of creative things, from art to technology to architecture, to almost every sphere of human endeavor. So I am saying now that we have all of these powers. All of us are endowed with them: vision, imagination, memory recall, and dreams. And to power up, we have to activate them for our lives. We have to put those powers to use to envision what we want out of the coming year, what we want out of our lives going forward. And there's no age limit to this. We don't stop being able to activate those powers because we reach a certain age. We continue to renew through them. We want to turn on our power of imagination to make our plans exciting and compelling, and to put them down, to write them down, not just to leave them in our mind as a wish. We want to turn on our memory recall and tap into our experiences and our knowledge and how to use those to make changes and decisions. We want to look at some of the shifts that we have to make, or some of the complete changes that we have to make. We want to turn on our dreams to be able to shape the future and to explore all the options that we can. We want to take action to power ourselves up by looking at what skills we need to add value to our portfolio of skills or our businesses or our life skills. We want to evaluate, motivate, and elevate. So we need to examine our level of motivation and commitment and look at how we are going to raise those so that we can get our plans off the ground. I've introduced something called Get Your Mind Over Money. Yes, we have to talk about money too. We have to talk about our finances, and we have to talk about how we are going to budget and lay the financial foundation for our lives and our businesses, and how we're going to create income streams. There was a term when I was in Spain called pluriempleo, and it meant different forms of employment. And nowadays, people are needing different income streams, so long as it does not breach any contract or it doesn't compromise anything you have with your present employer or so on. People have to look at ways in which they are going to supplement incomes and increase incomes to be able to deal with a rise in cost of living. And businesses need to look at how they are going to increase their cash flow, and they're going to increase their volume. And to do all of this, we have to turn on our mind power and make it happen. We have to be willing to take a leap of faith. And that means we have to sometimes try something new. And if we're quite quitting, then we're going to have to get out of that rut and do something and get rid of the fears and baggage that are holding us back. Last but not least, I want to say we need to power up, get in gear, and go for our goals. So there it is. That is what I've had to share with you about getting in gear for the new year. It's not quick fix solutions. It is about you working with your personal powers, your endowments, your talents, your experience, your network of people, and doing things. And once you seek, I can tell you this, because time and time again in my career counseling sessions, I have guided people towards seeking what they really want. And they have found great fulfillment, not because of me, but because it was always in them. I think the poet and philosopher Rumi says, what we are seeking is seeking us. It's out there, but if we never look for it, if we never activate these wonderful powers of vision, imagination, memory, recall, and dreams. And this is not just something I'm giving as a hype, a little motivational talk. I have seen it in my work in career development. And it's not only for, as I said, employees or individuals, it's for businesses as well, for people who run businesses. Organizations now have to come out of the traditional rigid framework that they're in and become creative, become energize their workforce, allow that creativity to flow. In fact, indeed, I would say all of Jamaica needs this at this time. So I rest my case here. I have presented this to you, and I hope that you will go in search of it. Now, in terms of our website, I want to say to you that perhaps time will not permit me to take you there directly, but please go and visit jobsandcareersjamaica.com. You will see a range of products and information. We have information giving you career advice. We have information on jobs. We have information on career trends. We have videos. One of the videos that many people have been looking at is our video on servant leadership. And there's also a CVM interview which speaks about the trends that are changing the way we live and work. We want you to go on your own and explore what you want to on that website. We also want to tell you about some exciting new products. We are beginning to do things called video resumes. And at this point, I want to bring in Dean Mundy. I want him to unmute and just tell us about something he shared with me that we are going to be working on, which is a new way of presenting your company information and your personal information. Instead of doing these long, wordy reports, you can actually do something far more exciting. So Dean, over to you.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Rowlands. So it's not really new in and of itself. It's just most of us in Jamaica, we haven't been moving a lot with the times. So the video resume is a new form of, getting yourself out there, issuing your resume, giving that more personal feel to the HR or whomever you're seeking a job from. So that's one of the services and product that we're offering. Another is explainer videos that will give a more detail in a movie form or a motion graphics form. So, you know, the trends have changed. A lot of people don't have the time to sit and read. So motion graphics or explainer videos, what that does is lend both visual and audio at the same point in time to get the message across to whomever you're trying to convey the message to. That we're also doing like jingles, radio and TV commercials, ads, editing. It's more along the line of communication. So whichever way it is that you're trying to get communication out there to make it memorable, that is what we're aiming for. How do we make communication memorable and at the same point in time teach and portray information that people would want? For example, with the conversation with you, myself and you, Mrs. Rowland, in terms of audiobooks, you know, these are different things that I think for us, we should look more into audio snippets, things, audio and visual snippets, as a matter of fact, things that will get information out to younger people where while they're on the go on their devices, they can get the same information and they can move forward with the information, take the information to go. You know,
I want to
audiobooks.
underscore that. I want to underscore that because there's so much knowledge, I mean, and our participants here, and you can package that and make it into an audiobook, share information with others and make money, right? These are some of the
Correct.
opportunities that this is posing. And I also want to say that Dean produces podcasts, my podcasts, which are going to be out next week on leadership. They've been produced by him. And there are many, many things that are taking place in a kind of, in a visual way that is exciting and that is also a product that is marketable and that can be monetized. So I want to excite you about that, you know.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure.
we just gave you a little appetizer of all the things that are happening that you can tap into. We want to remind you, please mute, because we're hearing persons speaking in the background. Could you please mute, please? Jean, could you mute? We want to ask you to go and look on jobsandcareersjamaica.com and see some of this information. Of course, you can go to other sites as well, but what we're saying is, rather than just surfing the social media and so on, go and look up information that you can convert into value added for your companies, for your human resource department, for business, because there are great business opportunities that are happening with being able to use the technology to make things like audiobooks, podcasts, webinars, and different products. There are a range of things, okay? For professionals who have been putting their information on LinkedIn, that's great, but you can also now have a visual resume where you can present yourself in an interesting way. So these are some of the things. I want to just reserve some time because time is going, and I just want to quickly introduce some of the participants here this afternoon. I already introduced Dean Mundy, who is the founder and owner of Ideas Evolution Studio that I'm in. I want to also acknowledge Dr. Dean Small, who was formerly the head of the Sir Philip Sherlock Center and one of our premier artists and intellects. So we have her here with us this evening, still producing incredible work and not allowing any limitations of ageism affect her. I have here Diana Marley, who has been involved in a number of very successful businesses in Jamaica. She managed Martin's Travel Service at one time. She was also the manager for Strawberry Hill, and she has done a tremendous amount of work in tourism. Francine Staple, you know, our wonderful security expert who we have lost to Kenya, where we haven't lost her completely because she still gives of her time. There's Sandy McIntosh, who is a wonderful editor. She has done a couple biographies, one of which was done of Danny Williams recently, and in the process of doing one, I think, of Mike Fennell. I see too Moya Kiming from the Vocational Training and Development Institute. Welcome. Ann Duval from Jamaica National Fund Managers. Faith Petrasic, image consultant from Florida, who does wonderful creative work. She helped us with one of the sets we had on our podcast, and she also does image consulting to help people to enhance their professional image. I see Aaron Gardner and the team from Push. They're the developers of my website. And they have helped many businesses to create wonderful websites and to look at how we can use information technology more effectively in our businesses. And so I see that there's someone from the Gore Foundation family. I'm not sure if it's Natalie or if it's Brandon, but welcome. If you're coming in late, one of the things I have to say is that we have recorded this Zoom launch, and we would like to make it available to you once we take a look at it. So I'm going to turn over to you now. We only have a few minutes left. If anyone wants to say anything, we'd welcome your comments. Francine, are you there? Okay. I'm not
Hello,
sure.
good afternoon.
Yes.
I'm here.
Aaron. Okay, Aaron, you're first up. Then we'll take Francine next. Good, Aaron. Please.
Okay, so firstly, thank you so much, Mrs. Rowlands, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Aaron Gardino. I'm the CEO of Push Technologies. So we are a local technology firm where we actually help businesses, go online pretty easily. And we're also working on a digital product that, connects these small and medium-sized, entities into a community so that they can offer their services and their goods. It was definitely a pleasure working on Mrs. Rowlands' website. It was amazing. And it definitely is very informative. And there's so much, pertinent information there for you guys to access. So I just wanted to say thank you again for the introduction and the opportunity. And a pleasure meeting you all. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And please, we can go and link you. We're a network now, we're a community. And what he does, he has created a hub of small businesses, large businesses. We can link in with each other. We can have a hub where we go find services. So over to you, Francine. You were going to say something. Francine, please go ahead. I'll mute. Go ahead.
Hello,
Francine.
everybody. Good night from Kenya, of course.
So it's night in Kenya.
Yes,
Okay.
it's night in Kenya. So, of course, I work out of Yemen at the moment. I am a security specialist consultant working within the United Nations Global Maritime Crime Program. I'm assisting the Yemenis to get their port back up to international standards. So I'm doing a lot of assessment of not only their ports, but their oil terminals, etc. So prior to that, I worked in Kenya for 2.5 years on a project. And it was interesting to hear Mrs. Rowlands talk about the pandemic. I arrived in Kenya just on the cusp of the pandemic. And one of the things when I got there, the first meeting I had, they had asked me to look at their risk register because I do have my master's degree in security and risk management. And having looked at the risk register, I saw where they didn't have the public health emergencies of international concerns, which you have heard the Minister of Health speak about. Jamaica is quite compliant with that. And I learned of that when I was at the port in Jamaica. And I'm saying this to say that out of that, my own creativity came out because I had prepared them for that in September. And just after doing that and preparing a document speaking to how we manage public health in emergencies of international concern, then we had COVID. So we were prepared. So it just brought out my own creativity. It was not a part of my terms of reference as a consultant, but I was able to offer that. Another thing that Jamaican companies can do that I saw that we did in the UN as part of our project, and I was the narrator on that project, we had work pods. So everybody had to come out of the office because persons were isolating. So because of the compound, how Kenya is, we have lots of natural resources, lots of trees and stuff like that. We have outside work pods. And we also had online coffee break. So persons were able to connect, etc. Now, also within that system, within the UN system, you also have questionnaires that you go online. People wanted to know how you're doing the pandemic, what is happening with you. And not only just for the pandemic, it's a natural system where each person, each manager, each project cluster, you have to go on. It is a consistent thing that is done where managers want to know how their staff are doing. So I see that is lacking in a lot of Jamaican organizations. I've worked there long enough, and I realize people are just about getting the work done. They don't care about their staff. They don't really care what is happening. They only call you when there's a disciplinary issue or a productivity is not met. So you have those online tools that you can create to understand what is happening with people. So in the UN system, we have each project, you have a lead that goes different scenarios, how you deal with this situation, how you deal with that situation, and each individual, each week has to take the lead to do these things. So I'm hoping that in the Jamaican scenario, we can have a little more of that. Another thing that we have to look at is during the pandemic, I was here in Kenya all alone because I just packed up and left Jamaica, tired of Jamaica. Jamaica don't need me. So I go where I am needed and my skills are needed. One of the things that you can use on the pandemic, like I did, is to get in touch with myself. So I take a break, and I don't take calls, I don't entertain negativity. So you entertain a positive space. So you have to look back. There are a lot of people in our lives that we really don't need. We think we need them, we really don't need them. So as a lot of us, we have to, what I call, sanitize our space. So a lot of us have to start sanitizing our space, don't entertain negativity. And, you know, as Mrs. Rowland said, don't just go around, hi, how are you? Sit and talk to people. In Yemen, I'm surrounded by men. I am the only female in all the training sessions. I have 50 men, and I'm the only female training these 50 men, because it's a male-dominated society. There are only 2 ladies in the office, our managers, and you have 100 people there. So what I do, I sit down with them. I want to hear how they're doing. They're going through a war. We are in a war zone. How are you feeling about this thing? So my training sessions is not just going in, talk about drug trafficking, talk about weapons trafficking, talk about human trafficking. We just don't do that. We sit down and we talk. We want to hear how you're feeling today. How is the war impacting you? And one of the things I use for them is, I don't want the word war mentioned in my class. We don't entertain negativity in the class. And when we finish, we play a little Bob Marley and we dance and we do our thing. So people feel much better about themselves. They're happy that I am there. So now I'm on my break in Kenya. I have calls. When are you coming back? When are you coming back? We don't feel so energized, because you want people to understand. You want to empathize with people. You want to bring them into your world. We're not changing them from their Muslim culture, but we are saying we care about you. There are people in the world that cares about you, because they will tell you, our passport means nothing to the world. We are nothing to the world. But when you go there, you want people to feel good about themselves. I transited through Egypt last. I transited through Egypt, and they were about to say, okay, we will transport you to a hotel. And everybody was rushing around to get me to the hotel. And I'm saying to them, no, I'll sleep in the airport with the Yemenis, because everybody treats them like they're less than. And I said, no, I'm okay. I will stay here with them, because everybody is, oh, the UN. So they wanted to take me and give me somewhere posh to stay. But I wanted to stay with the people there in the airport. So sometimes that helps people to feel good about themselves. So sometimes what I find in Jamaica, though, I'm not knocking my country, but I'm just talking about my own experience. We have to care more. As managers, we have to be more creative. Our HR managers are not creative. Our presidents, vice presidents, they are not creative at all. It's all about productivity, rushed meetings, people don't care. It's one-man upmanship. We have to change that because you're losing your workforce. So
Thank you,
hopefully we
Francine. I can
become-
always depend on Francine to be forthright. And you know, she's a leader, as you can tell. And she is a woman often in a man's world doing you know, security work, which is no easy task. But people feel that sense that she's there for them. And I want to thank you for that input. I see my friend Diana Marley there. I want to say hi, Diana, and welcome. Could you give us a few little words?
I see where I'm coming up as Heather Green.
Yes, I don't know why.
I apologize for being so late, but my computer was giving some trouble and I had to borrow one of the other girls' computers, so I'm using hers. Anyway, I didn't hear a lot of what happened, Gillian. I missed it, so I'm going to listen to the recording.
Yes.
I'm so enlightened and just uplifted by what Francine just said.
Yes.
Because it's so true. You know, I mean, as you know, I was away from Jamaica for a very long time and came back here about 4 or 5 years ago. And as she said, HR managers are not HR managers. CEOs and these people, you know, it's all about the work and the productivity. And if you don't meet your goal and your target, there just seems to be no real concern for the human element, the human resource, who we need to value, who we need to nurture, and who we need to look after to ensure that they stay in Jamaica. Because as Francine says, we're losing our workforce. I mean, everybody who's good at what they do or really good is leaving Jamaica.
Yes.
And they're getting a job somewhere else in the world, and they're, you know, being a positive influence on whatever company they're working with and whatever the country they're living in. I mean, look at Francine, for example. I mean, I know she's probably on loan, right? Because she's with the UN. But, you know, even just yesterday, I was talking to somebody who says that the turnover at their company, they're losing like 5 or 6 very good employees every month. And it's because they have no value for those employees, none at all. You know, it's just work, work, work. You know, if you stop for 5 minutes to talk to somebody, you know, you're wasting time or you're goofing off. I mean, come on, you know. We need to just embrace the fact that people are people, and the more you nurture them, the more you get out of them, you know.
And I know that was your style of leadership, Diana.
That was my style of leadership, and honestly, you know, I had a really hard time with it, as you well know, because you know, I wasn't, you know, slamming people every single day, because I took the time to stop. I knew every single employee. I knew them about their family. I knew whether their mother or their father was sick or dead. I knew everything, and I cared about them, and I spent time with them. And, you know, the owners didn't like it. You know, they didn't like that I wasn't massa beating them over their head and telling them, you know, you must not sit down for 1 minute. You know, if you're not feeling well, you sit down. If your feet are hurting you, you sit down. And if you're not busy, you know, you can take a walk and refresh yourself, you know, your mind and your body, you know, it invigorates you. Walk around a little bit, you know, you don't have to sit at your desk. You know, it's all of these people that believe that you have to be.
You have to have a whip. It's the old command and control model of leadership. In fact, our podcast, which I'm going to ask all of you to look out for next week, it's a series on leadership, which Simon and Zan and I have produced in collaboration with Dean Mundy here at Ideas Innovation Studio. And it's about we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about leadership styles. And you see, we have this old command and control, and on top of it, our plantation model, which people are finding hard to let go of because they think that they will lose authority. And so you must be a whip, and we can be far more productive. We know that. So these are all discussions that we have to have. And, you know, I want to say, I know some very fine human resource people. I know that we have spoken about some of the negatives, but many of them too are going through difficult times with their organizations, trying to play their real role, because the human resource person, manager, straddles that role between carrying the line of management and the line of their staff. And often they are in a very difficult situation. They're in a sort of tug of war. And we had a forum at the start of COVID, encouraging HR people to come together and to share and to lift their organizations and to go sometimes against the status quo. We do need it, because we see the talent that is leading, and, you know, we wring our hands. Oh, you know, Jamaicans are migrating. The teachers are going, the nurses are going. I can tell you that there are quite a few people in the banks that are going, and we know where they're going to, you know, because countries like Canada and the US are there welcoming them if you have good skills and you can see your way. And there's the other thing too, the creation of a decent standard of living, a decent wage, a living wage. We as a country need to begin to talk about this, you know, and the people who serve us, our nurses, our teachers, our police, our soldiers, all the people, all of us as citizens, we need to be earning a living wage. You know, we see what's happening, and oh, they're demotivated. These same people go and they excel in countries where they're given the opportunity to really go for their dreams, go for their goals, and earn a decent standard of living, a decent wage. So these are conversations taking place. I see there, Faith Petrasic, are you online? Are you hearing us? Not sure if she is tuned in to us.
I'm sorry, if I could just say something else. You know, we talk about a demotivated workforce in Jamaica. I think management in Jamaica is the most demotivating factor in the demotivated workforces.
Yes.
Because they're either ill-trained for the position that they hold, or they're ill-equipped mentally, you know, for the position that they hold. So they believe that in order to make people productive, that you, as you said, you know, you have to use the whip, you have to whip people to do things. And in doing so, what they do is demotivate. And that's why our customer service levels are so substandard in this country too, because people don't care. And why should they care? If they're treated badly all the time and they're spoken to like they're nobody and they're worthless, then what is there, you know, how are they to be motivated? By what? They're not motivated financially, right? Because heaven alone knows, and talk about a living work wage, most people are so badly paid that there's no financial motivation. So the only other motivation can come from either the people that they work with or the people that they report to. And
you're so right. You're so right, because many of us are in that sphere of the working poor. People are working, but their lives are not developing. They're not seeing the fruit of their labor, and we're asking them to work harder. But you know what you said about some managers, I think that anyone going into management should be trained in human behavior and how to manage people. These are really taskmasters. They're not really, what do we manage? We manage tasks, but we lead people. What we really need are more leaders, people who can lead and who can combine the whole thing of being able to break down tasks and so on, but know how to lead the people to do what they need to do to make things productive. We need a whole new dialogue around this. And I think we have started it some time ago, and we can continue it.
Yeah, Mrs. Rowe, just a point here in support of what you said about managers. I think a lot of managers in Jamaica, what I find is that fear factor. So what governs me in my profession is the principles of my profession, and I will not go against that. So when I worked in my last job, and the CEOs, I spoke to him on a point of the principle that governed my profession. He said he doesn't care who I am, and he's not going to go by it. And I resigned on the basis of the principle of my profession. So one of the things that I find that a lot of managers that I sat around the boardroom table with, they were just fearful. They can't speak. They have to carry the line of the CEO. They're so fearful that I have to hold on to this job. I mean, that job was paying me. I was living very well in Jamaica on that job. And I decided that, listen, it's my profession over your ego. It's not going to work. I am going to make a decision on the principles of security. That is what I'm trained to do. And I'm not going to support a decision that you have made because of your ego and your lack of knowledge of the profession. You have HR sat around the table, understood everything, has a master's degree in HR, which has taught you all that you're talking about, but they don't have the fortitude to stand up to the CEO to say it is wrong. I prefer you respect me for my decision than you palsy-waltzing me up to have a drink with you on Friday evening happy hour. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. When I come to the United Nations and work, what the United Nations do, I go in and I say, I don't think this is correct. This is what needs to be done. My manager will call to say, Francine, let us have a chat to look at what you are proposing. And what I'm proposing, I've saved them. I've saved them. So here, when I work with the United Nations, I find that I'm valued. I'm not valued in Jamaica. I am valued elsewhere. So I stay here. I go where I'm valued. And a lot of us are crippled by fear, and we need to stop being crippled by fear.
Well, Francine, you put it, in a very forthright way. And I think it's a challenge. We are challenging the status quo. We're challenging our organizations if they really want our talent, that things have to change. We're challenging the HR professionals to stand up for their principles. And many of them fight brave fights, I must say that, but they're not vested with the authority to make the final decision. There are also people who have, made the sacrifice because they have stood on principle. I can tell you that Diana Marley is one of those people. She stands on principle. And yes, there can be some fallout and there can be, repercussions, but we have to be brave. It's a brave new world, and we have to exercise our power. And we do have power. We do have power. We may not be the owners, and there are owners, I may say, who are enlightened and who are looking at how they can make their organizations more productive. There is that dialogue taking place. I see now that Mr. Shams has joined us from Florida, and I must tell you that he was the person who taught me how to use the computer after my initial fear of technology. I thought, well, this thing is, lots of fiddly things here. So I always had my secretary do things on the computer till one day she got sick. And then I had to step up to the plate. So Mr. Shams, do you have anything to say to us? You may have missed a lot of the discussion, but this has been recorded so we can share it with you later. Yes.
Of course, I had a meeting I could not avoid, so I just came in and I turned on my screen, and it's it's powerful lady sitting there and and giving good ideas. I heard the guy last one, but that's it. I will participate until you're finished, right?
Okay, Mr. Shams. Well, I must tell you that
Mr. Shams taught me project management.
Yes, and he's offering a great project management course coming up this month, which we have supported in terms of letting our companies and our HR practitioners and people know about it, because his programs are very good. They're very hands-on, very practical, and his way of imparting information, his knowledge transfer is immediate and simple and practical. I can attest to that, having been a student of his. And so he has a program coming up, which we're going to be telling everyone about. And of course, all of you who are interested, I'll be sending you anyway the information on it.
The only thing is that those who have learned in the past, a lot of things have changed. You know, our method of techniques of teaching and our handling of practical issues and everything. It's an international university, international company now in the state of Nevada and Las Vegas, and so I look forward to always hear from my old students, including Mrs. Rollins. But if you want to get in touch with me, Mrs. Rollins will have my email, and she may also have,
I certainly do, and I certainly will. But I
will
want to
have
say that
also my-
Mr. Shams is yet another person who has left us. He's originally from Pakistan and studied in Germany and all over, and came here, married a Jamaican, has a lovely Jamaican, daughter and son who belong to both cultures. And, you know, he made here his home and lectured at the university for many years, had his own business right in the studio that I'm broadcasting from, right near here in this building. And, you know, he is now operating out of the United States. But luckily we can connect through Zoom. That's one thing I must give the technology thanks for. We also have with us Sandy McIntosh. Sandy tends to sort of stay in the background. She's a wonderful editor, and she has written many wonderful biographies. Are you there, Sandy? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. I don't know if you wanted to say a few words, Sandy.
No, not really. I'm I think I'm in an older age group. So
Well, age doesn't matter here. You know,
Yeah,
in the
we need to hear you.
metaverse, let me tell you, in the metaverse, as my millennials tell me, age doesn't matter. It's knowledge. It's knowledge, and it's what you have to share and impart. That's the one thing I must say I like about the metaverse.
Yeah.
She's not 75 yet.
Huh?
How old is she? She's not 95.
So we can't, well,
no, well,
we're not, let's not
I'm older than everybody here.
age on that.
95. She was,
No, one of the things that
very old. So
you're talking about technology. Technology is a blessing and a curse, because when I look at Mr. Putin slaughtering people by the thousands, when I look at what is happening in other countries, parts of Africa, Haiti, and so on, and you know, you just wonder how these things go on, and then you're trying to work, and all these lovely programs are in front of you on the screen. It's hard not to just sort of escape into the technology.
Yes, which is what someone said to me. A lot of our young people are doing. They're finding it easier to live in the virtual world and to live with the dopamine of the virtual world and to face some of the reality, you know. And the other thing I want to say about that same technology that brings us the news, it makes it in a way very near to us, but very unreal. It's like you're watching a movie, but it's not real people. You know, when I look at what's happening in the Ukraine and how many people are being slaughtered. And let us not forget too, because we look at the Ukraine, but coming here today, the news had it of how many people were killed in Montego Bay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so we are waging a war against crime too. I mean, wars can sometimes be ones in which you can see the bombs dropping, but we have had a history of crime that has killed many of our young citizens and our productive citizens and all levels of people. And this is a great loss to our country as well. So, you know, crime factor, which Francine is a security specialist. She does it at the level of the UN. She did it at the level of our port. She was head of the port security here. So she knows what we're talking about. But I fear we may get very political if we get into how we're going to curb crime.
Yes.
And that is another forum. That's another forum.
Yeah, but not necessarily. But I agree with Sandy that the internet can be a blessing and a curse, because in war, a lot of what we hear on the news media as it relates to, especially, well, I can speak to Yemen, it's not necessarily totally accurate. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm trying to mute, but I've lost the screen.
So basically, you know, what we're seeing is that change is upon us. We have new tools through which we can communicate. There are all kinds of ways in which we can build communities of thought, of intellect, of innovation. And I think that we have to exercise those powers. You know, I think in a way, many people feel outside of the loop when it comes to the decision making and the shaping of their country and their community. And there is a yearning to be involved. I look at the talent that's here, you know, and I think of how it could be deployed to help to build our organizations, our community, and our country, Jamaica, which we love very much. Now, I know that we have run over our hour. We're into an hour and a half. And I am just going to wind up this presentation. We want to again remind all persons who participated and their friends who may have heard about this launch to visit jobsandcareersjamaica.com to look at what we're doing, especially for the month of November and December. I spoke about Mr. Sham's project management course that's coming up. We are also offering some courses in customer service and in also facing the challenge of change, people who are going through transitions in their jobs or businesses. And we're also doing a course on working on winning, powering up for success, finding our winning style. Faith Petrasic is not here, or she's not hearing us, but she came earlier on from Florida. She is our image consultant, and she does something called an image makeover, because sometimes people have to get what we call the physiology of success. You have to do the work on the outside and then internalize it, or do it on the inside and then externalize it. But you have to bring the two together. And that's an interesting program that we will be offering. You heard Dean speak about the video resumes, which we're going to be offering to you, and also an exciting product in which you can give information about yourself and your organization in a visual way, far more exciting than, you know, creating a brochure, because as he said to me, the millennials are very visual, and they look at exciting and short ways of getting their message across. We heard from Aaron Gardner, and well, I think Romario is there, and Alonda Richards. They may be hearing us, and they spoke about Push, which is an IT company. They create websites. They created ours, but they also have a product in which they're going to have a hub that you can go to find all kinds of services. And we are going to be putting some of this information on our website, so you can go to it and you can view it. You can research it on your own. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank those I see still with us: Francine Staple, Diana Marley, Mr. Shams, Aaron Gardner, Dean Mundy, Sandy McIntosh, Moya Ming, and Faith Petrasic, and others who may have joined but had to leave. I want to thank you very much for joining this Zoom. I want us to catch a fire, as Bob Marley would say, yes, and energize ourselves and power up and keep this community going. We need more.
Mrs. Roland, just one point before you go. One of the things that I would just share with the persons here, that one of the courses that you need to start looking at as an organization is the topic of equality, diversity, and inclusion. Especially if you're relating to international clients, it is something that is very important. Equality, diversity, and inclusion is very, very important. That is, of course,
we want to hear more about that, and I'm sure you will know a lot about it, and we can tap into that knowledge. And by the way, everyone here has knowledge that can be packaged, and we want to talk to you about that, because we're in the business of talent management as well. And how do we take what we know and package it and monetize it and make it valuable and make it available? We can't be shy about this, because people need the knowledge that we have. Thank you all so very much. It's been a most engaging session, and I just want to leave you by saying power up and get in gear for the new year. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to end. Thank you again. Thank you, Moya, for your message. It was our pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Please visit jobsandcareersjamaica.com to see more of our products, services, and podcasts.